In this video, I'm hunting every trophy in FBC Firebreak, a surprising FPS extraction shooter from Remedy. When I learned this game took place in the same universe as Control, I was intrigued. Remedy has such a phenomenal way of creating unique and captivating worlds. Some I've played, while others are still calling my name. Firebreak is me dipping this channel's toes into that pool. This game revolves around you playing as a member of the Federal Bureau of Control's Containment Squad, referred to as Firebreak. You and up to 2 partners will suit up to take the fight to the Hiss, while trying to restore order to the oldest house and its dangerous mysteries. This is done by completing some dangerous jobs. Dangerous is a very fitting term, as I learned that quickly while running through a flame-spitting fan to revive my downed teammate, receiving first response as my first trophy of my playthrough. I didn't even realize it, but I was thrown into a public lobby with strangers on an actual job. I was put into my first game not knowing what I was supposed to be doing moment to moment. It was a bit of information overload for me. So these strangers decided that they had enough of my ineptitude and just quit the match. As sad as that was, I actually had an awesome friend who was experienced with this game that quickly took me under his wing. Say hello to Dead Pills, everybody.
Hello, motherfucker.
It was with him that I really started learning the ropes, doing specific tasks like extinguishing fires, repairing machines, and charging electrical devices, making me an all-rounder with my capabilities as well as giving me the trophy to boot. He also went out of his way to teach me helpful tips and little nuances within the various maps to ensure our victory.
So a good rule of thumb for this one is when you see a fan that's not running, that one needs to be fixed,
giving me the first of many dubs to come. Because of this, my player rank soared to the next level, unlocking the Climber trophy while also earning me a very welcoming introductory trophy for completing my very first job. Welcome to Firebreak not being my first trophy is a true indicator of how chaotic things will come to be, I'm sure. Chaotic is the perfect way to describe this title and experience as a whole. Buckle up, because this game right here is just going to be throwing metaphorical curveballs at me left and right with a few things. This recent overhaul that came in this patch is one of them. Man, where do I start? I'm serious, like where do I start? I was given a tutorial on how to play this game in the latest update. It's been out for 3 months at this point. Thanks, Remedy? I don't know what I would have done without this. I mean, I still got the platinum trophy without it, so there's that. Spoiler alert. I'll take some time later to cover what we got in this update, but a lot of what you're gonna see will be from the base version of this game, as I played it right when it launched during the summer. Now, what followed after my very first match was me jumping into multiple matches with each of the 3 crisis kits. I wanted to familiarize myself with their capabilities and also know what to expect when my partners used them. The crux of every job I undertook was boiled down to a series of specific objectives that I had to accomplish. I chose how difficult I wanted the encounters to be, how deep into the map I wanted to progress, and also any modifiers I deemed necessary. The trade-off to doing more difficult jobs is that I got more rewards to apply to my upgrades.
Wow, it's the furnace! We should get to cover! You two can hide like babies if you want, but I want to dry off, and this purple light feels nice and warm.
The first location available to me is Hotfix. This initial outing took me to the basement of the oldest house to repair the blast seal on the building's furnace. What goes from simple repairs to support fans quickly becomes a fight for my life. There are many things down here that can easily overwhelm you if you let your guard down. Getting trapped in a working fan with no way out wasn't in the job description. Yeah, this can happen fairly often, and when it does, it really sucks. The design of these fans are just so impractical. Why wouldn't they run the wiring to a location right outside the fan? I mean, the flames burning the circuit board isn't a concern, it's directly in the path of the fire, whatever. When you approach the furnace, you see just how daunting it is in person. It's very temperamental and even more hazardous, causing you to constantly take cover into conveniently placed shadowed areas, while dousing yourself to keep from burning up. This actually lends to some very awkward but intimate moments with the people you play with, as you're gonna have scenarios where you'll have to huddle in a safe area while you think about your next move. Now, to tame this paranormal flame, you have to fill up these barrels at the designated charging stations. Feeding these barrels of black rock to the furnace itself gives it an upset stomach, causing it to lash out at you automatically. This made me and my friends adopt the strategy of piling a crap ton of these barrels by the entrance of the furnace and throwing Hail Marys once we had enough to satisfy the objective requirement. Once we seal the furnace, we make our way to the elevator, living to see another day.
Dave? Kill me! Kill me!
Paper chase might be my favorite just for the novelty itself. Alright, hear me out. You have to destroy sticky notes. That's it. Now there's a crap ton of these things, so you might be doing this for a minute. I can understand where you'd lose most people on this. When you look at it for what it is, it could come off as obnoxious, monotonous, and many other descriptive words you can throw out. I guess the novelty of it alone makes me enjoy it. I think what really sells it for me is the fact that I enjoy a good office gunfight. Max Payne 3 is the perfect example of what I'm talking about here with one of its levels. If you know, you know. You take an organized place and slowly turn it into a playground of destruction. I think Firebreak pulls it off fairly well here. You're constantly keeping your brain busy by doing something, somewhere, all while causing destruction at the same time. You could be blindfolded and still perform somewhat well on this map, provided that you have the splash kit and teammates that can cover and guide you if need be. Speaking of the splash kit and just water in general, you will need to become very acquainted with how that element is used if you want to survive here. Water makes paper damp and weak. It's a match made in heaven. You're gonna get covered in plenty of sticky notes yourself just by the sheer nature of this job. It doesn't help that you also have to contend with these possessed stack of sticky notes that go out of their way to attack you. But that's nothing. This entire job is wrapped up with the boss fight that sees you going toe to toe with King Kong's post-it note equivalent. Whoever came up with this concept must have really hated their 9-to-5 office job and wanted to channel that frustration into a power fantasy. There's even these conveniently placed water and electricity traps that weaken the boss itself. I know for a fact that thing did not put that there.
Aha! Got him! Now, check your boots, your helmet, your skivvies. No rogue stickies back to HQ. Got that?
Dave? You're gonna want to stay over there. Embrace me like I have embraced my inner self. Come, let us join in spirituality.
Ground control is where I had to take things a bit slower. Taking place in the building's quarry, your progress on this map is centered around this shuttle cart that requires you to fill it with the pearls you obtain from popping these leeches that are scattered everywhere. Of course, that doesn't stop the hiss looking to give you the work as you're trying to accomplish this. You also have to balance out the radiation you get from these hazardous orbs to make sure you don't die a slow, agonizing death. You mitigate this by hopping into conveniently placed showers to remove this effect, and more on these bad boys later. I gotta say, the person who manufactured this shuttle really underestimated the power of a parking brake. When you leave the shuttle alone for any reason, including your own safety, it has a tendency to roll backwards, at least in this initial portion of the stage. This forces you to act as a stationary turret, as you're part tactical gunman fixer guy and part chalk for this piece of rolling machinery. I usually say screw it and just let it roll back while putting the pearls in the center by the track. Now that I think about it, this map kinda shares the same qualities that Paper Chase does, in the sense that you won't have to pop every leech you see, but you'll be coming very close to that for a chance just to score one. The middle portion could be a real endurance test in general. It's really prevalent when you're doing this in solo too and it's just you shooting. At least with Paper Chase, it's easy to chip away at your goal no matter what you do. You can randomly throw a grenade and chances are you're gonna blow something up somewhere and add it to your progress. For this job, you need to have some precision with your shots to get results. The kind of characters that most make, to include my builds, probably won't be efficient at this. So whenever I play on this map, I expect the first 2/3 to take some time before I make my way to the finale. A finale that is always worth it, as you're literally using the pearls to power a freaking rocket. This comes after a few rounds of maintenance, accompanied by a last stand. It's only then that you're treated to a pretty sweet send-off. One small step for man and one giant leap for the paranatural.
Dave, look out! Hiss! I'm dying. I'm dead.
Frequency shift is easily the most unpredictable location to play on. I know that's hard to believe given all the nonsense I've been spewing thus far. Take everything I've told you on those subsequent maps and replace it with explosions. A bunch of explosions.
I'm in bad shape.
The chaos is at an all-time high here. These pink exploding globs are actually just exogenic mass, which I have no idea what that is in general. In this state, it's clearly disrupting operations around here, so we have to do something about it. Not only that, but they're highly explosive depending on what they come in contact with and how it's applied. Getting covered in this can make you a walking bomb if you're not careful with how you move while you work this job. They're contained by fixing emitters scattered throughout the area. I feel sorry for the claustrophobic individuals who have to do this job, as you can easily get trapped in this pink substance and lose your sense of direction too, especially in these transition points between the zones you'll be traveling through. It's oddly satisfying to clear it off a piece of equipment and see its functionality return. It's like unblocking that stuffy nose you had for quite some time and getting the airflow you've been longing for. Powering a local emitter and seeing it clear up nearby substances feel like the end of a movie, where everything is self-destructing as you're leaving the bad guy's lair. You have to execute this process 3 times before you can leave here. This last room, holy smokes, this last room. It could just be an absolute clusterfuck of everything. It is not for the faint of heart. Crowd control in this place is the most challenging aspect of it. There were quite a few times I was down because I thought I had things under control, only for a chain of events to happen, followed by a lot of bad luck. Once I got my character to a high enough level, I was able to shake off most of these stage hazards and be able to navigate through this job with relative ease. It really does help that all the remaining globs self-destruct as you're departing from this location.
Job done. Drop your boots at the incinerator and get on home.
Yes! Dave! Shoot it! I can't lift gun in time. Oh, God! Oh, my limbs! I'm being torn apart! Oh, my limbs are surely broken! Oh, God! Oh, God!
For the last map, there really isn't much to say about it, other than it's the opposite of what to expect on Hot Fix. Freezer Duty has you going through the facilities to stop a ski lift that's gone mad. It's creating these bad boys right here, frost anomalies that need to be contained. This one for sure is on the slower side of how you progress. Of course, this comes from having to deal with the cold and the expected effects that come with it, but also the first 2/3 of this map have you searching and powering these heaters to actually take out the frost anomalies. The freeze effect does you no good as the player in a horde extraction shooter like this, where you need to keep moving or die as a consequence. By now, you've seen a wide range of elements you have to juggle, which I think is a pretty awesome element to this game. No pun intended. The middle zone is easily the most dreadful part, where you have a ski lift that constantly throws out these random blizzards. This forced me to duck in and out of the pseudo cover on the sides while powering these heaters. One thing I've noticed while playing this game is just the verticality these maps themselves possess. Ziplines are conveniently placed all over, giving movement a parkour-like feel as you can zip around the map effortlessly, along with any key items you choose to bring along with you. This all culminated in the concluding zone, where I put the missing ski mannequins back on their respective lifts, restoring order to yet another facility in the oldest house. While I was in the process of creating this video, a new map released for us to play on. Outbreak is a really cool addition to the existing roster. The main substance on offer here is mold. It's everywhere. On the walls, on the floors, on the enemies, on the doors. The moment to moment here bears the same resemblance to Freezer Duty, except you're at risk of getting diarrhea from mold inhalation rather than just flat out freezing to death. I'm not joking about ingesting it either. Your operator can't help themselves. They'll bite a spore while delivering it to the analyzer if you hold it long enough. I'm not sure how they eat it through their mask, but okay, I'm with it. I do find it kinda weird that you use ice to exterminate this stuff rather than fire. I'm not an expert on mold removal by any means, but wouldn't using fire be a better option? It sure looks cooler when it's used for the same thing in other games. Coldness just slows the growth or usually halts it altogether. I guess they made this choice for balancing reasons, since fire can really solve almost all the problems you encounter during these jobs. It was also here that a new issue instantly became prevalent to me while playing. Sometimes my bullets just don't work. or any kind of damage for that matter. Look for yourself. You know, damage to the enemies is a pretty important thing to have working in an FPS. I don't know what's causing it. It happens to me in solo jobs or even when I'm playing with friends. All I truly know is that I never had this problem before they released this patch. This needs to be fixed as soon as possible. This makes doing certain jobs on higher difficulties almost impossible, since it's almost like a modifier in of itself. So how is this guy not losing health? I'm shooting him and he's full of fire. That makes no sense. The ending zone here is awesome though. I do think Remedy is starting to nail down the design of these places in a way that's fun and engaging. This almost feels like a playground at times, albeit one that has air you shouldn't breathe in. Now as I play these maps, I entered multiple matches with each of the 3 Crisis kits to become familiar with their strengths and weaknesses. They're all unique with different specializations. Starting with fix kits, they're tailored to repairing damaged circuits and other electronics, providing a handy wrench that allows you to repair things while also beating the crap out of anything that requires it. It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's homeboy flying 450 center field, go catch. You also get a charge move that can be helpful when doubled as a dash. However, I never grew tired of making people fly as if there was no tomorrow. I'd eventually take out that same aggression on 100 different machines, 100 separate times, to achieve percussive maintenance. The fix kit special weapon, referred to as a swivel cannon, kinda looks like something from IKEA's furniture clearance. But don't be fooled, it can quickly be constructed into something fierce, while also being fairly stylish. I got more kills with the cannon than my gun in one particular job for the big chair. The jump kit is the fix kit's first cousin in terms of its functionality. By that I mean you're also dealing with electronics, but more so with the electricity that directly powers them, rather than the technical aspect of it. With the electrokinetic charge impactor, you'll be powering a ton of things rather quickly. You also gain the ability to pump electric charges into anything that requires it, which also makes this double as a neat tool for causing arc damage and controlling crowds. A pretty nifty side feature of this thing is the ability to propel yourself away from surfaces. I gotta admit, I definitely underused this during my experience. Now that I'm thinking about it, this could have got me out of many situations that normal mobility wasn't cut out for. I was actually trying to learn how this kit worked in my first match. The random guy I was playing with didn't know that, so I probably came off as a jerk who wasn't trying to do objectives as I was getting used to things.
Look at Edison over there with his damn electricity. Hey Edison, how about sharing some of those light bulbs, huh?
Hey, figure it out for yourself, man!
To whoever that was, just know I'm sorry. It was on this specific generator that I earned the trophy Manual Mastery by completing a manual fix without making any mistakes, which as you can clearly see, I played a major part in. I mean, I totally crushed this minigame. I would eventually come to learn how to properly use the impactor, powering 100 electrical devices in future matches to get the trophy clear. The jump kit's boombox plays some of the most destructive music known to man. A JMat classic song. This of course attracts all the nearby hiss who are haters, causing them to go into a frenzy and attack the speakers so they can get that bullshit off the aux cord. What they don't expect is the explosive finish. I taunted 10 folks for one explosion to get the Decibel Domination trophy. The final Crisis kit we have access to is the Splash Kit, which is exactly as its name suggests. You're the guy with the H2O. The tool here is a crank operated fluid injector. This really comes in clutch when trying to combine elements for some environmental manipulation. It also doubles as a medic class. Having at least one person running this can be a necessity at times. Extinguishing fires came pretty naturally to me in this game. While they can be incredibly helpful for crowd control, I just found myself putting them out just because. I naturally extinguished 100 of these rather quickly for fire broken. The Splash Kit has a specialty weapon in the form of a humidifier, which is the opposite of your typical office water cooler. Once it's filled, it spews water everywhere. It's quite handy for on-the-go healing when needed. Can you imagine if someone gifted this to you and filled it up, only to have your room turn into a water park? I managed to heal a nearby homie with one for first aid certified. Completing an initial run with the Fix Kit, a Jump Kit, and a Splash Kit got me their respective field testing trophies. Match by match, I got acquainted with the basics. benchmarks, not only with myself, but also with the needs of my teammates. It was around this time that I had my other friend, PS Crash 2K, assist me in my endeavors as our third man. Between him and Dead Pills, I picked them up at least 50 times when they got down for break times over. You sometimes have to really lean on your teammates, working together through tough conditions to win rounds. Besides each other, I had to heavily rely on these two stations for resources. These two resource stations provide you exactly with what you need to survive. Shower stations for healing and ammo stations for ammunition. You'll really come to lean on the former. This is the quickest way to regain your health, other than gaining it directly from a faucet, which is surprisingly more effective in some cases. Sooner or later, you're going to be spending time here. Showers can indeed make a lot of things better, which is why I showered with a crew full of the boys. It's like I always say, I would do this regardless if there was a trophy or not. You do have to be careful about using the shower. I learned that while I was trying to pick up my teammate. We were both being burned alive. You can clearly see the desperation in us as we tried to navigate through all the chaos. I also got incapacitated while in the shower and ended up getting a Hitchcock moment. Side note, I don't know if it's a bug or a deliberate choice, but after a while, the shower stopped healing your fire status effect, which makes no sense to me. Does the fire become waterproof or something? Maybe it's just an Otis House thing I'm not meant to understand. I really started developing great synergy with my squad mates, taking the daring leap to higher threat levels. I wanted to live life on the edge, so within that same first session, I decided to do my first job on a normal difficulty, which is tied to the trophy risk allowance. During this initial run, I was still trying to find my footing with a few things. Determining my go-to weapon was one of those. Bringing a sawed-off shotgun that was a base level here did not do me any favors. Make that double for the fixed kit as well. It was still so early for me, so I didn't really know what to expect when I did this. Fast forward through a lot of sticky notes, me and Pills take out post-it note Kong and successfully extract, resulting in me getting risk allowance. For danger pay and cool hands prevail, I found myself with the full crew and back on a job hotfix. This attempt was on the hard difficulty with 2 corruptions enabled. And man, did I get a wake-up call from this. I'll explain what corruptions are later. Just know that we went the entire match handicapping ourselves, making it way more difficult than it needed to be. At this point, I just wanted a brief taste of what it feels like to really have the stress put on you as you play this game, and it sure delivered. After many tough encounters and close calls, we ultimately gained enough momentum to make a final push for extraction. Now at some point during the tail end of this run, I called an audible with my current class, moving from the jump kit to the splash kit, as I felt that it overall served my playstyle and current situation better. And mind you, we still been getting our asses whooped by the stronger enemies, and also the ignorance about the corruptions made this more of an obstacle than it needed to be. So the rest of my teammates were downed and I was the only active player. I used the last life. We made the executive decision to have me extract so we can still salvage whatever we had left. It turns out I didn't really need to use my ejector much. This would actually benefit me in my journey for the Cool Hands Prevail trophy. So I make it all the way to the extraction point with tensions at an all-time high. Now's a good time to mention how the elevator works in most rounds. You see, you spawn in the elevator as your starting point in every match, and you leave out of the same one when it's time to go. After completing your main objective, you proceed to it and initiate a countdown. Once the countdown is over, you can hop in the elevator and be home free. Only sometimes the game likes to throw a wrench in your operations by short-circuiting the elevator, something that occurs more and more frequently on the higher difficulties. This awkwardly leaves you to have to make a quick repair before you're actually safe. With the cards being stacked against me and my situation not getting any better, I just decided to full send it and hope for the best. You think I can repair this real quick?
Yeah, I think you can. Well, I think you don't have a choice, so it don't matter. Like you,
I'm saying
you got. Oh, great heavens!
Come on! Dude, I have no health, and he's in here with me. What the fuck? Oh, I got it! I can't believe I got it. I don't know how this was allowed to happen, but it happened. Completing this job on the hard difficulty unlocked danger pay. I also got Cool Hands Prevail for not letting the splash kit's ejector overheat a single time during this specific match. So this part of the video is going to be dedicated to me discussing the menus and any of the trophies I acquired through them. That wasn't until this update somewhat scrambled things for me and my narrative, so I figured this would ultimately be the best spot in the video to discuss more of the Breakpoint update further. I really felt like I should talk about it because this is the first multiplayer game I covered on this channel, excluding Tricky Towers, but that was more of a general review. I really only played the versus mode with friends, and that's about it for the multiplayer aspect. This change really adjusted a few things from a fundamental standpoint overnight. As you can see on the screen right now, the offensive options I had were pretty bare bones, and that's even with the maxed out character compared to what I have access to now. Albeit most of these things I had already come to unlock before things changed with the patch. I mostly stuck to the same 2 weapons and grenade type regardless of the actual crisis kit I used. It looks like they changed the way weapons are balanced along with some new additions on how to assemble your equipment. The outfit options you have for your operator are just, you be the judge of that. I get it, this is a first-person shooter. It's kind of pointless to really expect robust cosmetics. Well, I mean, if you're asking for money in any form, I think you should always provide the best possible product. I found a few visual combinations along with the operator voice that suited me and stuck with that. The clothing options low-key look like they should be in an indie title like Power Wash Simulator and not a AAA experience like this. I purchased my unlockables from inside the requisition tab. This catalog lists all the additional equipment, upgrades, and cosmetics available for use in this game. The common currency I spent was lost assets, which can be found during matches, but also was given to me as a flat reward for completing jobs. One of the items I did look forward to buying was the spray items for sale, which allowed me to become an expressionist. Wall sprays are a neat way to express yourself, and I guess they also serve as this game's way of emoting. You have quick chat options too, by the way. I appreciate how some of these spray tags are references to the actual game. They have a Schoolhouse Rock aesthetic to them, and honestly, I can't get enough of stuff like this in games. I put down a spray tag 100 separate times to eventually become a vandal. Hey look, there's the addition of exotic items. Pretty cool. It's another currency to grind for, but whatever. I guess that's the nature of the beast that is FBC Firebreak. Oh, but what's this? Of course, you know they had to hit us with some BS despite all this praise. Take everything I told you about the currencies and throw it out the window. Lost assets don't exist anymore. This is gaslighting the players that have been playing the game since launch to remove these currencies and reset them. They reset the amount you had to this new default to accommodate changes. I wouldn't consider myself a true hardcore player of the game, but dang, seeing that made me feel like the fruits of my labor were practically flushed down the drain. If this happened to me with this amount and I feel this way, I'd hate to see how someone would feel if they'd been playing this non-stop and racked up a lot of these currencies. The last menu I experimented with was the research page. Yeah, this game has a perk system. It's pretty robust. You get a variety of things that can affect you individually, all the way to causing status effects that could benefit your teammates and even affect enemies. I like this approach because everyone's gonna have a unique build. Some of these, in my opinion, are absolutely vital. Rapid response. Yeah, some of these I could never see myself using in a million years, but the fact that they are there is good enough for me. You use them, so I don't have to. The more I leveled up my crisis kits, the more room I had to stack perks. You can even fortify them and go so far as to give them an area of effect status. As I upgraded perks, I needed to pay with an additional resource. These items are referred to as research samples. Each one of these 5 were found at its respective job. Having corruptions enabled increased the likelihood that I found more whenever I explored. I received a research assistant trophy for securing a couple of vicious strips, while completing the paper chase job and properly extracting. Nothing more to say about this other than the currency that's here will no doubt change how I have to play in the future if I want to keep experimenting with builds. Now as time went on, I began to feel more comfortable with how things worked in this game. It got to the point to where I was able to dispatch larger and more powerful groups. I took out 10 flying enemies in one job to get Clipper. I also realized how much you can cheese a fair amount of these encounters just by using the various zip lines found on levels. Unless an enemy has a ranged attack, you can kinda just zip back and forth. This, however, became vital to me getting Can't Keep Me Down, as I needed to kill 10 enemies in a single job while keeping my feet off the ground. The easiest out of this batch of combat trophies by far became Smarter Not Harder. Normally when I work toward trophies, I come up with a general idea of what I need to do to unlock it, so I approach it with a degree of deliberation. However, this one surprised me because it was tied to how I normally play the game. A go-to combo for me was combining the powerful shot grenades with bullets and any other environmental elements I could stack. With higher difficulties, in my experience, the enemies didn't become super tough or spongy. They spawned in larger quantities with more varied types, so I feel like I would have gotten this one way or another. The two primary weapons I bounced between were the pump action shotgun and the heavy machine gun, which is fitting because unlocking hands-on approach and hands-off approach saw me specifically getting 500 enemy kills up close and 500 enemy kills from a distance. The most effortless trophy for this entire sequence was Just Here to Work, which required me to complete an entire job without firing a gun. They didn't say anything about using a wrench, so I kept that on deck the whole time. I also had a partner cover me as I completed this quick job on easy with no corruptions enabled. Earlier in the video, I briefly mentioned corruptions and how I started incorporating them into my matches. Well, what exactly do some of these look like? I'll be happy to indulge you. The effect is applied by a tangible object in the match, be it a crowbar, a table saw, a mailbox, a gas cylinder, or even a rubber duck.
Right? Awesome.
Oh, it bonded to me. I get it now. Oh. Like it's my friend. Oh, that's sick.
Whatever that particular item is, will also have a certain status effect attached to it that affects you and everybody else playing in the lobby. The effects can vary from actual cool things, such as reduced gravity, making this game feel more like Destiny if I'm being honest, to creating extremely tense situations, like the traffic light that forces you to be still when it's showing red. Taking any steps while it's doing so can result in me being down quick. Oh yeah, the snare drum can go to hell. It doesn't matter how prepared you are when this one randomly pops up. It will seriously impact your run. I'm not sure when, but this game probably explained it to me while I was learning everything from a fire hose about how to neutralize these. There was no tutorial screen or mode available to me at launch. You just have to learn everything from those one-time messages or by flat out looking up what you have to do from an external source like the internet. This kind of design philosophy perplexes me. You opt to give people the information in the first place. Why couldn't the game launch with a screen or mode that one could refer to if they need to review certain information? This right here is exactly what we needed about 3 months ago. The weird thing is, I don't know if I could ever access this mode again, especially if I'm a first-time player that wanted to brush up on something. It's not in the newly added media viewer either. All that's there is the absolutely silly but funny puppet videos that no one is likely to watch more than once, maybe twice. It's funny because fun brief gameplay moments aside, it feels like there are numerous permanent corruptions in this game, in the form of bugs, crashes, and even missing information that should be present. We're working for a federal bureau that doesn't train their employees properly. Can you imagine if you worked for the FBI, or whatever the equivalent is in your country, and all they did for training was show you puppet pal videos where they act as secret agents in the field? I'm 100% positive that would be absolutely useless to an agent instead of actual field training they can refer back to. Back to the topic of in-game corruptions. You have to use this gun that fires black rock ammo to neutralize them. What can easily be mistaken as another weapon for you to use is actually vital to disabling these things. It usually spawns in at very specific spots on the map and cannot be replenished, so you have to use it as carefully as possible. I got Neutralizer for disabling my first ever corruption during a match. This naturally evolved into me unlocking Containment Specialist, which came from me completing a job and neutralizing the maximum number of corrupted items that can be enabled in a match, which is 3. It was around this time as well that I was able to gather enough lost assets to purchase augmentations for all 3 of my crisis kits. Simply put, augments are powerful attachments that you add to your utility tool to make it even deadlier. Think of them like ultimates in an arena game. Deploying my very first one got me Desperate Measures. treasures. Each augment is uniquely distinct from its respective class in terms of both appearance and function. The fix kit comes with the piggy bank attachment you put on your wrench, which detaches upon contact to create a deadly whirlwind. The splash kit gets a teapot that heats the water in your injector, so you're quite literally spitting hot globs of fire at everyone. The jump kit comes with a deployable gnome that will disrupt anything in its path. It comes complete with an electrifying display. It does have this weird tendency to make its way to you when you shoot it, causing you to become another statistic if you don't distance yourself enough. This is something I learned the hard way while unlocking Gnomed in the process. I downed myself like an innocent idiot my initial time using this. After some trial and error, I was able to get enough practice with these tools to be able to properly implement them in a match. Oddly enough, I tend to stick with one crisis kit on any given run, but I had to switch that up to pop every tool in the box, which required me to deploy all 3 augments in a single job. Little by little, I gained experience through various grinding, maxing out not only my player level, but eventually also maxing out each crisis kit, subsequently unlocking Rookie, Veteran, and Firebreaker. At this point, I had really optimized all of my builds. I had maxed out guns, grenades, and all the perks I desired. I was able to slot a perk into all available slots for my crisis kits. This allowed me to unlock Lab Rat for doing so. With these fully realized builds, I found myself nearing the end of the game, at least with the trophies. I completed all the content this game had to offer probably 15 to 20 hours ago. If I had to pick the biggest downfall for my experience, it might just be the limited content that it came with. At launch, we only got 5 jobs. That's 5 maps to work with. They aren't even procedurally generated themselves, so you have an idea of where everything is, with the exception of very specific elements like corruptions or resources. It's cool to see we got a new place to explore with Outbreak. I'm not sure if I want to keep coming back to this game after a few months just to play on a new location. I think they should add a different mode altogether in this game, like a survival mode with its own progression. That would absolutely go nuts in that regard. This title is just ripe for that kind of thing. Since I had a good enough player build to support myself, I started taking on a lot of jobs solo whenever the homies weren't around to help out. Doing so really familiarized me with the pathfinding and general objectives on each map. I was actually surprised to get OSHA compliant on the map frequency shift, as that's one of the more difficult ones to win on with the constant and quite inescapable explosions you're bound to experience. Somehow, someway, I managed to get it done on the hard difficulty. This naturally led to me dipping my toes in the unforgiving extreme difficulty. Of course, I didn't just go in head first. I did a light solo run just to see what it would consist of, and it kinda showed me just how crazy this game can truly get. The number of enemies thrown at you can be overwhelming. You absolutely need a competent team that will bring their A game. I started testing the limits of what I can do by completing a job I was really familiar with, but with no corruptions, on extreme, to obtain hazard pay. We have now arrived at what I believe to be the most challenging trophy I've had to tackle for the end game. What a Day is the kind of difficulty trophy you can expect to get in a game like this. I had to complete a job on extreme with all 3 corruption slots enabled. I chose the hotfix job for this task as I felt very comfortable with the structure. In all honesty, it couldn't have started off any better. We were more or less hitting our goals without major resistance. It all went well until the second zone unlocked. I ended up making an incredibly stupid mistake that would end up biting my team in the behind down the line. I mistook a fan for being out of order and hopped in to attempt a fix. I quickly learned the error of my ways. My friend Crash didn't learn from my blunder and tried to revive me out of pure generosity, and just like that, we lost 2 easy lives. One thing about this game is that if bad things are happening in the match, at any point it could just amplify and become a digital dumpster fire. Greed is one of the key things that can make or break your team in this type of game. As tempting as it is to want to grab your drop loot upon death, you're better off making it to the end since you get a flat amount for completing the job anyway. So between us getting rocked by the enemy and also any failed attempts to grab our loose resources from the working fans, we ran out of lives and was essentially on life support. I feel like this created a sense of urgency in us as we started to be more careful and focused on working as a team. From now until extraction, we didn't lose any more lives and made stopping the corruption's top priority. We made great progress in making up for the lack of loot as well. So So fast forward and we make it to the end of the third zone, which can be very stressful on a job like hotfix. We had done this a million times before, so it was just routine at this point. And through careful strategic planning, we managed to complete this last objective and were tasked with the extraction. Oh look, the elevator's here. Let's make our way out of this place. Of course, the expected short circuit happened, but that should have been the least of my worries.
A few moments later.
Somewhere along the way, my judgment became more and more clouded, which was accompanied by my slipping motor skills needed to knock out the required QTE. Upon fixing the elevator, I turned around and realized the game had spawned an entire wave of enemies. I totally underestimated the count and tried to get them away from me.
Oh! Oh, wait, shoot. Wait, why are they still here?
Bruh!
Oh!
I was so desperate and fatigued from the match mentally, I didn't realize I had about half a magazine I could have dumped into the hiss. Yeah, what you're seeing here is complete misfortune. To be honest, we both made costly mistakes and just had to be better in the future. The flubs I made was really the beginning of the end when I sat and really thought about it. Now the only saving grace is that we had a spare life, so I chose to be the person to make the final attempt. Hopefully I can finish this run and finally calm down. It's been one thing after another here, and truth be told, I just... What?
Wait, you froze.
My game crashed.
What's this?
My game fucking crashed, bro.
What the? Yeah, it just shows you a dude in midair, like, froze on my screen.
Yeah, what you're looking at is exactly what happened in the last minute of this job. The universe convinced me that this wasn't meant to be. It was late into the night at this point in the recording process. I was so tired. I didn't even really rage or feel much emotion. I quietly put down the game and said, you know what? I just gotta come back to this. It's not meant for me to have this right now. I decided to go to bed disappointed. I'll come back tomorrow stronger than ever. On this new run, we meant business. Only the worst possible corruption was given to us in the middle of all the ongoing chaos. As I mentioned before, the snare drum can literally make or break a run, and it almost broke this one. We nearly lost all of our lives just trying to get this one under control.
I'll try it. Since he's distracted, wait, what the?
Oh no, more spawn. Fuck, dude. Somehow we were able to overcome it and really just cruise through the rest of this job. We didn't bullshit and kept it very tactical. It really helped that we had fully realized builds at this point, ensuring nothing but a dub, which is exactly what happened in the end. We managed to not only extract without losing another life, but did so rather comfortably. Man, what a day. The deliberate planning and strategizing doesn't stop there. Add another obstacle to overcome. Overtime is the type of trophy you really have to go out of your way to collect. It requires you to pick up a teammate as the only member standing with no crew lives left to spare. The odd thing is that when you run out of lives, you actually get a timer to have an extra life added to your team count, even on extreme, which is very generous all things considered. Isn't extreme supposed to be unfair and not forgiving? This gave me so much trouble, not because of difficulty, but because the window it's to be performed in is so small. You really need a crew to plan around this. The crew I was running with was busy with other things at the time, leading me to run a lot of two-man or solo jobs at any given moment. The last thing I wanted to do was make a random player suffer because of my selfishness. I wouldn't expect them to understand even if I explained it to them. All of that considered, attempting this in a public lobby was out of the question. I actually tried to do it organically in a lobby with my friend Crash, but we never had the scenario pop up where it would be viable. Like I said, I didn't want to be a nuisance to a random player. What I ended up having to do is wait until both my friends were available and pretty much coordinate my way to this trophy. I appreciate the help and efforts of my friends. They didn't have to do this. Thanks Pills and Crash, you're making my dreams come true. Now come here and let me down you. I executed the necessary revivals to get overtime. Truthfully, these two helped me out more than they know. From being someone who had no idea to what was going on, to getting my grasp on everything made this a somewhat wholesome experience. It just sucks because this game can be so much more. To not only get the platinum, but just anything worthwhile, kinda requires you to grind the same locations, do the same objectives, and fight the same bosses with the same outcome. I think this update is essentially one step forward, but maybe half a step backwards. I hope this doesn't set a new precedent of radical quality of life changes going forward. Remedy needs to really be careful about balancing and revising these systems, not just for new players who are underleveled, but for anyone who's going to be playing this game long term, which doesn't look like a lot from the way things are looking now. Identity is one of those very important things you must retain or risk losing it trying to please everybody. It brings me back to that Greek paradox known as the ship of Theseus, where if you keep changing parts on an existing boat with new fresh ones, would it still be the same ship? When does it just become a new boat altogether? You're probably thinking, calm down JMat, it's just one update, don't be so extreme. You're more than justified to believe what you feel. Sorry, but with how live service games are being handled nowadays, I can't help but err on the side of caution with these kinds of things. This is not a new tale in the industry, I can tell you that much. I do have faith in the team working on this though. I know for a fact they have what it takes to realize its potential. It's better to iron out these kinks in the beginning stages of a game rather than abruptly end the service because you set everything on fire. The entire time I spent playing this at launch, I felt like I was playing an early access game in its beta, but this was considered the full release when it came out this past summer, I suppose. I say all of this as someone who's played Control and has gotten the platinum trophy. I love it so much I've considered hopping back into it and doing a platinum playthrough on PS5. This could have been a much better experience considering the universe it's in. My last trophy before the platinum consisted of me playing the last few jobs with the full crew, which naturally consisted of my friends. I completed 10 full jobs with the crew to get 10 days without an incident, followed by Employee of the Century. Thank you gentlemen for all the help. Thank you Post for showing me this game. Honestly.
Yeah, man, this shit is fun.
Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, then I recommend some of the other videos on my channel. I have a series called Playtunes where I do the same exact thing you saw here, but with more of a retrospective approach, along with me making a custom soundtrack for the video topic. Don't worry, I'll be waiting for you.